Hi and welcome to another PHP tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to look at how to use the include and require functions in PHP to include multiple PHP files in one PHP file. So to show you an example, I've created a homepage here which has a header which contains a menu, and then I've got a content section here, and then I have a footer down the bottom. Now, at the moment, I'm on, I have a PHP file open which is index.php, but there are actually three PHP files being used here. One is index.php, but it's also including header.php and footer.php in the same page. So I'm using the include function to include two other PHP files in this home page. So that can be quite useful if you, for example, are making a form to log in to a website and that form contains PHP code. You might want to include your header and your footer around that form on the page, as an example. So here I have a main PHP file, index.php, and then I have two other PHP files included in it to give a header section and a footer section on the page. Okay, so that's what we'll achieve by the end of this tutorial. To start with, I have four files here. I have index.php, header.php, footer.php, and I have a theme that I've already created earlier, which I can put in the code, but the theme is just a CSS file which basically gives a background image and background color for the header section, and for the links, and all different colors and padding and everything there that might be needed. Okay, so I'll go back to the index.php file, and what I'll do is start with some HTML code. So HTML head, and we can add a title to this web page. So I can just call it my website or homepage or something like that. And close off the title tag, and then we can just close the head section and start body section of the web page. Okay, so this is HTML code, and you can watch the HTML tutorials if you're not too familiar already with HTML code. Okay, what I'll do now is I'll just add a heading. Welcome to my website. And we can add some content, just a paragraph. Okay, something like that. And then we can close off that body section, close off the HTML, save that, and then go and reload that page. Okay, so there we go. We've got welcome to my website and a paragraph there. Okay, so heading in a paragraph. Now, what we might want to do is include a header section which will contain things like maybe the logo, the menu in there, and we could also include a footer section which might include things like links at the bottom or copyright information, all of that. So to do that, what we can do is have two other files. We can have a header section, so we can add code for the header section. So I'll add some HTML code here, and we don't actually need anything in the head section here, so we can close off those tags. But in the body section of this HTML code in the header.php file, I could add something like a div, call it header. Okay, and inside this div, I can create a heading, call it my website. Okay, and we'll close off that div, and then we could create another div called nav actually. So we'll call it, say div ID equals nav. So this is going to be for the menu. So basically here we're going to have the title of the website or the logo, but we'll just have a title for now. And we'll have a menu as well. Okay, so we can put the menu inside an unordered list and add some links. link for the home page. And we can just copy and paste those links and have some other pages. So maybe an about page, maybe a products page, maybe a support page, and actually I'll just make those all lowercase, and maybe a contact us page. Okay, so I've got some links there. Close off that unordered list for the menu, and then close off that nav div as well. Okay, lastly, we can close off the body section and the HTML tags. All right, so basically now we have a header div in here and a nav div, and this is all going to go up the top of the web page. Then in the footer, we can add some HTML code. Don't need a head section here, so we can close that off as well. But inside the body section, we'll create a div, call that footer. Oops, missing all keys here. Call that footer. And inside there, we could just say something like copyright 2015. That's all the content that we'll put in there for now. And just close off that body section and the HTML tag. Okay. All right, there we go. So we have a footer here. You can save that. We have a header. So header will go at the top of the page. Then we'll have the content in the index.php page. And then at the bottom, we'll have the footer. Okay. Now, going back to the index.php file, what we can do is now include these other two files in it. So we can say above this heading here, we can add some PHP code here. So we'll use the PHP tag. We'll say PHP include header.php. All right, so this file is in the same folder. So we'll say PHP include header.php, and then we'll just close off that PHP tag. All right, and that's it. And then down the bottom underneath this content, we'll have the footer down the bottom. So we can say PHP include and then footer.php. All right, there we go. Save that. Okay, so in that folder, this is what we have. We have the background image, which just looks like that. That's for the top div. We haven't used that yet though, because we haven't specified the CSS code. But we have the index.php file. We've got the header and the footer PHP files, and they're all in the same folder. So if we go back and refresh this page, now we have the header PHP file. We have the index.php file content, and then we have the footer.php file. Okay, so we've got the main content in this index.php file, but above it we have a header, and below it we have a footer, and we've done that by including two other PHP files. Okay, now what we can also do is we can style that using the CSS style code here. So basically I've got code for the header. So the div with ID header, sorry, will have the background image set to background.php. So that's this one here. We'll set a background color just in case that image doesn't load. I've set the height, the color of the text, text alignment, padding around the text in the div, changed the font to Arial. I've also added background color, height, and padding for the nav div for the menu. I've added some CSS code for the main content of the page. However, I haven't put the content in that div yet, so I'll do that in a moment. I've added styles like the font for headings and paragraphs, style for the footer section, and then here I've added a lot of styling here for the links on the menu. So the different mouse over effects when you hover over the links, and changing the background colors and all of that. So what I need to do is go back to the index.php file, and inside the the content here that I've got in this page, what I'm going to do is put that inside a div called content. Okay, so that the CSS style will be applied to that. All right, and then also at the same time in the head section, I'm going to link that CSS style sheet file by saying link rel equals style sheet href equals theme.css type equals text/css. Okay, so it's going to grab that CSS style information from the style sheet, which is in the same file called theme.css. All right. So now if I've saved everything and go back, that's what it looks like. Okay, so I've got the header section now with its theme, with the menu, mouse over effects on the buttons. I've got the content here, which has changed style, the font's changed according to the CSS code for the content div, and then also the footer has changed background color as well, and the font is centered in the middle there. All right, so that's basically how to use include. Now what I'll do is we'll go back to the index.php file, and instead of using include, you can use require. So I'm going to change include to require for the header files here. So now instead of saying PHP include header.php, now it's saying PHP include require header.php. So if I go back and refresh, it looks exactly the same. Nothing has changed. But if I go and either misspell header.php here, or if I delete this header.php file or misspell it here, so I might just misspell it here. If I do that and reload the page is broken. Okay, so it says here, warning, require header.php, failed to open stream, no such file or directory, failed opening required header.php. Okay, so because that PHP file, which is header.php, was required, but it wasn't available because it goes under a different name, it's been misspelled. Because it was required but couldn't be found, it hasn't loaded that PHP file, and then so it hasn't loaded the rest of the PHP code. So it's completely broken the page. All right. So now if I change that back to include, what it will do is it will include that header.php file, but if it can't be found, it will still give you an error message, but it will continue loading the rest of the page and the rest of the PHP code. So basically, if you use include, it will include a PHP file, but if it can't be found, or it's misspelt, or the file's been deleted, then it won't load that PHP file, but it won't stop the rest of the page from working. Okay, it won't break everything else. But if you use require, then if that file cannot be found, then it won't load any of the following code. It will just completely break the page. Okay, so that's the difference between include and require. And that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching.